Hey everyone, I'm OSnap. I do a lot of Clair Obscur content, including a lot of randomizer stuff, and I want to go over how to set up the randomizer. Same way I do. So it's kind of complicated. There's a few different ways to randomize it, and I'm going to go through both ways because I combine the two. Both are still being developed, and there are two different people doing the development of them. So you'll kind of have to keep an eye on both of them, but I'm going to go through how to set it up the way I do and talk about the different ways you can kind of do that. So the first way is I'm going to talk about Archipelago, right? So those of you who don't know what Archipelago is, it's a way to randomize multiple games together. You can do them by yourself. You can play with groups of people, basically. But basically what happens is you get an item, it sends it to the server, and then it sends it to whoever it belongs to. So you can just do that with an individual game. So if I pick up a Picto, or, let's say the first item in Spring Meadows, it's behind, the waterfall when you spawn there. If I go pick that up, it could be anything in the game, right? Or if I'm mixing multiple games, it could be anything in a different game. And the benefit of using this for the randomization is it needs to have logic. So it can't, for example, put all of your SK abilities, because that's randomized as part of this, it can't put them all in the monolith, because you obviously need SK's abilities to get to the monolith, because you need to have him, you need to swim, break coral, or fly, anything. They all can't be in the monolith, for example. So that's the benefit of using something like this, as well as this randomization allows you to mix those SK abilities and characters as well, where the other one, the one on Nexus mods, which we'll talk about in the second part of this, doesn't let you do that. So to set this up, right, this is archipelago.gg is the website name. Again, all the links will be in the description as well. But all you need to do is set this up, right? Some other good things, going to the Discord is good. Now, Clair Obscur itself is not on this Discord, but there will be a link to the other Discord as well, in the description as well. You can get it from this Discord as well. But basically, you just need to get the software for this, because this is its own standalone software here, right? So you just go to the setup guide here. There's the different languages here, different installations, but basically it'll just take you to a GitHub page, and you can just download it. Right, we'll just show you that we're not going to obviously reinstall Archipelago from the beginning here, but this also explains some concepts, and we'll go over those as well here. But yeah, Archipelago latest release here. I'll put a link directly to this as well. Right, scroll to the bottom for releases, and you will get, installer, right, like typical, right? Setup.exe here, run that, install it. I have mine right here. Okay. I'll go back to the site here. So once you install it and launch it, you get this. Again, I'm on a slightly older version just because I know it works, and I'm not really playing with other people, so it doesn't matter. But the latest one is 0.6.4, right? It says that on the site here. So once you have this here, you're going to have a bunch of native ones, native apps, a bunch of things already in here, but Clair Obscur is not fully released, and I don't think it will be in this just because of the rating of the game, right? And they drop some F-bombs, and there are also some blood, etc. So I don't think it can be put in here, but you can always add your own, right? So there's this install AP world. So now this, once you have this set up, is finally where you go to the Clair Obscur setup guide, right? Now this is going to be in the Discord. Again, it's AP After Dark is the name for it. So again, higher rated games they can't be in the main one, just, again, for reasons. They don't want to, again, there could be younger people in there, etc. Right? So you go to the setup guide here, right? It's going to talk to you about what you need. I already talked about this first thing, Archipelago, right? And obviously you need the game, but then you're going to need things like the AP world, right? So if I go and click on this AP world here, this is what basically tells the game what logic, like how do you handle these different items, right? So you'll need this for every game that you're playing. Again, some of them are just pre-built in as part of the release, and those are like the official games. But for anything else, you'll need to get an AP world for it. So all you need here is you just download the Clair Obscur AP world, right? That's all you're looking for here. And then you'll go in here and you'll hit install AP World, and then you select the AP World file. So you just go to your downloads or wherever you put it and just select this file. That's all you have to do. And then the Archipelago software will now know, okay, this is how I handle this game, right? And again, as new games come out, people make these to make it work. The other thing you'll need, and here's just the exe as well. You can just do it straight from this, but the other thing you'll need is this YAML file. Now, you might not have to do it sometimes, right? Sometimes I've seen it hit or miss if it shows up, but there is an option here, is generate template options. And what this does is this goes to all of your different templates here that you can create. And these are just going off those AP worlds, right? So like I should have one for Clair Obscur here. This is just telling you the settings options that you can create from. So you can either download it here, or it should show up in that template options as well if you just click on the Archipelago generate template options. Okay, so now going through what those options are, is, let me take an example output here, right? I have one here, my players, for example. And it's, a little bit of a preview. That's where you put it. I'll go through where you exactly put that again. But so this is what something is going to look like here, is anything in this numpad, symbol, that's like a comment, right? So you have to fill in the things. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff in there. That's just telling you what the options mean. But first, you'll need a name for it. I just call mine Snap33. Again, this is for if you're having multiple games, etc. It needs to know who it's coming from, because you could have 5 people playing this and mix all of your items together. So you just still need a name. And then some of the other options here is progression. This is just how it loads the game. So I just typically run a balanced approach, but if you wanted like everything in the front of the game, you could set it up that way. Or if you wanted everything later, if you wanted to make it extremely hard, you could do that. Accessibility, this is going to be similar for like all Archipelago games, but full means you can reach everything, and minimal means just whatever's required. So for example, if my clear condition is to beat the Renoir 3, the final Renoir, if that's my clear condition, I might not be able to get SK's dive ability. It might not be possible because I don't need that to technically beat the game, right? So that's just how the logic works for it. Death link, that only matters if you're playing with other people. That just means if you die, everyone dies who's playing. The goal, these are the clear conditions here. So you can do the Paintress, right? That's the one in the monolith. Curator, that's talking about Renoir 3, not the Curator in Flying Waters. Clea, Painted Love, or Simon, right? And again, you're going to see these 0 numbers and 50. Basically, the numbers are saying how many chances it has to hit it. So you'll see one of them I have multiple selected, and it's just saying the odds. So you can weigh this. So if I were to do something like this, right, it basically rolls it 70 times, right? And out of 70 chances here, 20 of them would be Painted Love, 50 of them would be Simon, roughly, right? For example, is how you, again, if you want to mix up things and not necessarily know what your clear condition is, or you can always check after you make it. Right, character shuffle, this is the big one that most people are going to want to turn on because that adds a difference from using the other tool, which we're going to talk about later again. I set that to true. Free aim, this is just literally the ability to aim. So honestly, you can put it in. I recommend just doing false. It's just more backtracking for like the paint cages later in the game. This is one, the default is going to be excluded. It's going to basically just keep you on the story area, so to speak, right? Not a lot of Act 3 areas included. I include them because I wanted it to be harder. So you won't have to go in like Renoir's draft at all. Like there'll be nothing in Renoir's draft that's important. Or like Flying Manor, for example. So I turn them on if you want to experience like the whole game randomized. You would want that included. Endless Tower I've excluded. Again, that's just saying, do you get rewards for all of those fights, basically. So again, up to you. Gestural Village, lost lost gestrels. Those are kind of buggy. I just recommend turning it off. There's a few options in here as well that I have turned off because those checks are bugged. The Discord has an up-to-date list of known issues, so I would just reference that. And here's an example of where I want it to be random. I turned off Gustav because that's the normal way to play. I don't want to start with Gustav. It's kind of boring. But what character I start with? So again, this is, I have an equal chance of rolling Lune, Mael, Ciel, Monoko, or Verso, right? Equal chance because I gave them all the same number, right? So that's how you do that. Or again, if you want to specifically just start with Verso, for example, you just zero all of these and only put numbers on Verso. Yeah. Gear scaling. This is to try to not make you so overpowered if you want to do it. Sphere placement just means when we talk about spheres in rando, if you're not familiar with it, that's basically saying how deep into the seed, right? So things that I can get as soon as I spawn in, those are typically sphere 0 or sphere 1. Sometimes it's weird. Sphere 0 is sometimes like what you start with, and then sphere 1 is what you can get right away. But then let's say, for example, Stone Wave Cliffs. Stone Wave Cliffs will never be sphere 1 because I need to get SKA. I also need to get the ability to enter Stone Wave. That's also randomized. I don't think I mentioned that. Right, so that would be higher level. So higher level stuff would be in Stone Wave than it would be in Spring Meadows, guaranteed, no matter what. Order received means just as I get more stuff, they will progressively get stronger. So the first few pictos I get are going to be level 1. Then the next few pictos I get are going to be level 2, etc., etc., etc. Generally makes the most balanced experience, so that way you can't just go somewhere later in the game and somehow get a really strong picto or weapon, which sometimes happens, especially with Dark Shores, for example. And then these ones are just random, right? So again, in Spring Meadows, I could pick up, again, balance is more even. In terms of it's going to put some weak, some strong. Full random, it can literally, everything in the game could be 33. That'd be extremely low odds, but it could happen. But that's, again, that's if you want true random. Again, I could pick up the first picto in Spring Meadows and it could be level 1, and then the next one could be level 33. That's basically what it's saying. So you could get very unbalanced runs, but again, teach their own. Not everyone's doing challenge runs. Some people just want to have fun. Fine. Equip level, this is generally talking about if you want to limit yourself to not having strong gear, it can scale based off of where you need to finish. Again, I don't have a limit, really, because I have endgame areas included. But if you have endgame areas excluded and your finish is painterous, it's going to assume you don't really need level 33 weapons. So it can limit you to like 15, for example. So if you just want to have a tougher playthrough and not get the chance to overlevel, that's how you do that. Same thing with this. If you want to change your max quick level, that's what I was talking about. Again, now the important one here is area logic. I do no logic, so if anyone who watches my stuff, they might see me go all over the place. If you don't want to play that way, so I've never done a seed where I have logic enabled. This is basically saying if you have normal on, for example, nothing in Act 1, so you have to unlock an area. So an item might be Ancient Sanctuary, and that allows you to enter Ancient Sanctuary, and you cannot enter until you find that. That will not be anywhere later in the game. All of those areas will be within Act 1. So before you finish Stone Wave, you should be able to enter Ancient Sanctuary, SK's Nest, Gestural Village, Flying Waters, etc. That should all be available to you. Hard is most of the major areas will be like that, but there might be some that are outside of it. And again, no logic is it doesn't matter, right? The first area I could enter, obviously you start with Spring Meadows. That's where you spawn, basically. The first area I might be able to enter legitimately could be Flying Manor. That would be extremely rare, but that's possible. If I just get a bunch of rocks, progressive rock, and I get the Flying Manor portal, that might legitimately be the first area it wants me to go. Trap chance, that's if you just want to do traps. I don't play with traps. You can do that. Usually just traps just mean something bad happens to you. A lot of these are just goofy ones like a feet trap. It's going to pop up a feet pick, I guess. Again, I don't play with that. You can, if you want feet pick, you can do that. And then there's some things here. Excluding locations from having important items. Again, there's some bugged ones that I put in there. I also put Simon in there. My clear condition is Simon anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Might do it anyway, I guess, to finish now. But yeah, if you just wanted to like have endgame areas, but you didn't want to be like, I need to potentially kill Simon because it's not your clear condition, and you don't have enemies randomized, you might want to put that. And you'll see there's nothing in here for enemy rando. That's the important difference in why I use 2 mods, is this does not have enemy randomization in it currently. There's a plan for that. Again, the main benefits here are the areas needing to be unlocked and the characters being shuffled that the other one doesn't have. So that's all the options you have here. So when you make this, again, that was a long-winded going through it here, but when you make this here, is you want to put it in your players folder. So there's a few ways. If you have no idea how to get there, there's a browse files button here. This will open your Archipelago folder here. And you just go into players and you put it in here. The name doesn't really matter. It's going to take the name on the thing. I just also name it to whatever the name of the player is. You put it in here and then you'll generate a new one, right? And we can actually do that here. I have my 33 player in here, and we'll do, just scroll up to the top here, generate. So it's going to take every player in there, and you'll see it's going to try to make a game with it. If there's any errors, it will tell you that's an error from something else, right? If it closes successfully, it's good, right? So what I can do here is I'm under my players here. There's also an output folder. I have new ones here. This was my last seed that we were playing, but this is the one I just made, 629. That's the current time here. All right, I'm just going to extract it here, and I'll show you what's in here. Depending on what games you do, again, I know this is mainly for Clair Obscur, but depending on what games you do, there might be other things in here like patch files, etc. You don't need that for Clair Obscur. You basically just need the server file and the spoiler. I'm going to open the spoiler so you can kind of see what it looks like here. It's going to show all of your settings here. It'll tell you who you're starting with, right? So I'm starting with Minoko. I'll know that on the seed here. As well as it will give you all the list of all the checks. So again, if you're not doing this as like a challenge or a race or some sort of competitive setting, you can just use this to check where your things are if you get stuck. And if you keep scrolling down here, it will also, like you'll notice when I mess up a run or I die, I'll like check like, oh, where things were. A lot of times I'll just look at how it wanted you to play. So these are the spheres I was talking about, right? So sphere 0 is just what you start with Minoko. Sphere 1 is what you can get access to right away here. With what it's saying here. So again, progressive rock, that's unlocking SK, that's in Spring Meadows. And then this is just the playthrough wants you to follow, right? All the way until you beat your clear condition. Which again, for me is going to be Simon. It looks kind of weird here. I don't even know where it's killing Simon. Sometimes this is a bit weird, right? But in general, it should tell you where it is. This is the weirdest, like, perfect time I'm making a video and I want an example. This is like the weirdest looking pathing possible, but you can kind of generally follow it. Again, it's early in the development of this, right? There's going to be some issues. And you guys know I crash a lot if you've watched my streams when I'm just playing. But yes. Okay. So now you have the seed basically. So how do you actually host the seed? Well, you can host it on your computer. This is just going to set up a local host. I do this a lot when I'm just doing a single game. Or you can go to the Archipelago site and you can host a game. And you upload that server file. Look at all my thumbnails here, okay? Great. But yeah, you would basically upload it. So I would go to my output. I have this marked here. And then I would upload this server file here, right? And then you would give you a host and a port. You'd put that in the game, and we'll talk about setting up the game next. And then you play off that, right? But we'll just hit host here, for example. And you'll see it starting to create a game here. It's going to ask me for my folder here. Right. And I just upload the server file, and you say it's now listening on localhost. Again, it says 0000. What you type in is you type localhost, and then the port number is 38281, right? So that's how that works. And then I can connect to it. So right, I'll just keep this running because I'll show you how to connect to it, and we'll just keep going with it. So the next part of the setup guide is you need the client mod, right? So go to the client mod here, download what version you have here, right? And what it's going to look like here. All right, download it, right? I'll get it here. It's going to look very similar to your games folder, right? So if I go and I do properties here, it's on the game here. If you're lost, don't know how to do this on Game Pass, to be fair. I'm sure there's a way to look at your files. There's probably some way here, but you can just hit browse. And I suddenly am on this page, right? What this zip is going to contain is it's going to contain a Sandfall folder, right? It'll have Sandfall in here. All you need to do is take the contents and copy and paste it into here, right? And it's going to put in the extra things it needs, right? There's going to be some things in binaries, I believe, and some things as well in logic mods. It'll have logic mods here, right? Just copy and paste it, put it on your game folder. Again, you get to your game folder, right, by just browsing the local files here. Again, probably something similar on Game Pass. Can't confirm. Sorry about that. But yeah. Okay. And this is what this does, is this adds a section to the game. We'll boot up the game here. You've seen it if you've watched any of my runs here, and I've restarted. Is this, again, this is all the mods running here. Part of this is what that's installed here. Right, and then you will see this Archipelago now added. Now I also have this. This is not part of it. That's a different. This is loading other mods here, but I already have my settings filled in here. But this is going to be blank. Again, if you're hosting locally, you type localhost. If you're hosting on the site, it'll be archipelago.gg and whatever the port it gives you. You just hit connect to AP. Again, wait for it to connect. See connected button here. And then you will be able to play, right? I'm connected now. It should be sending and receiving items. Again, if I'm doing solo, that's fine. But yeah, that's how that works. Okay. Now, for anything else here, any other mods you see, those are not part of the randomizer. I get asked all the time, is the minimap part of it? That's not. You can go on Nexus Mods. I'll put a link in the description, but there will be a Nexus Mods one where you can have it, as well as the enemy random, which we're going to talk about now. And this is going to tie into and help you understand how to install just general mods in general here. But the enemy random portion, again, this is just the Archipelago portion, right? So cut it there. If you just do that, no enemy randomizer, but you'll have logic and your characters randomized, etc. That's how you do that. Actually, before I shift to that, one other thing to note is pop tracker. It does call it out in the setup guide here. Highly recommend pop tracker. What pop tracker does is gives you a view of all your checks, right? This is not Clair Obscur specific, right? So let me drag this over here. This is a pop tracker example, right? It's going to have what I have. This is from my last run here. Going to have what I have over here, right? So I have all the characters here. And this is, what map are we on here? This is Flying Manor, right? And it will tell me what I have access to, what I've already gotten. So it's gray. That means I already grabbed it. If it's yellow, that means it's technically not in logic. This is Flying Manor. So this is basically saying you're not strong enough for this. Red means you can't get it. And green means it's in logic. So, right? These are flags, right? But it has everywhere here. So like I have fly in the seed. I can go grab this item. This is totally in logic. This is just an item on the map, as an example. So this is very useful if you're not 100% sure like where everything is and how to get it. This plus the mini map should help you kind of cover all of those bases there, right? So highly recommend pop tracker. You should get that. Again, directly ties to Archipelago, Archie for short. So download that as well. And then also basically what I described, it will have the info down here. If you have any other questions, again, you can always ask in the comments as well. But now for the next part, how I do the enemy rando as well. Now this also has item rando as well. This was the first one. And this is still actually being worked on here, right? As you see, there was an update 5 days ago. I think they're working on skill rando. But this is on Nexus Mods. I just use the GitHub directly because it's updated before Nexus Mods is. So I'll put a link to the GitHub and the Nexus mods, but they'll be the same. So how this works is this is a separate application that you can use here. So I have it in my documents here, right? I have a lot of versions of this, as you quickly saw that. But let me launch the tool here, right? Again, the actual downloading of things is pretty straightforward, right? Just look for the release here, right? You can see the latest releases here. So if you just click here, should be able to get it. There's a zip folder, just unzip it. And as you saw, I can just open that from in here. So going through this one here this is 2 tabs here, enemy randomizer, item randomizer. I'm going to start with this one real quick. If you are using Archipelago, turn everything off here, right? Because it's logically placing things. I don't even know if it'll work. It might just straight up crash when you pick something up, but it is logically randomizing the items. If you randomize it again with another tool, the logic's broken then, right? If it doesn't crash. It might just crash and not work, period, but just turn all these off in case it lets you do it. Right? But if you're not doing that and you're doing this as a standalone, let's go through some of these, right? So what's randomized here is there's more general items randomized in terms of like cosmetics, and pretty much any pickup in the game is randomized, whereas there's some things that aren't randomized in the other one. Like, for example, if you go to Flying Casino and you talk to the door, basically, talk to the casino door as Minoko, you'll get an outfit. That might be randomized here, but it's not randomized in Archipelago, right? So this does randomize a few more things. But basically, everything besides characters and SK's abilities are in the pool, essentially, when you have this checked. This is just basically saying it displays, right? So if you pick up anything, it will show it at the bottom. There's some cut items if you want to include those as well. So things that didn't quite make the end game, a lot of those will have like no stats associated with them. So you'll notice like critical burn, for example, has a little bit of speed, a little bit of a crit chance. A cut item might just have like none of those stats, but it still might give like a passive effect. So it might be in there. Painted power. This is self-explanatory if you want to automatically receive painted power, or if you want to have to find it yourself. Again, randomize weapons and cosmetics. You can do that as well. This one is, how I understood it from what's been said, is they're all going to be 16 because it's basically tied to Lumiere Act 3. So how the loot works in this is, I suppose the other one, this one goes off of the area you're in. So the higher level area you're in, the higher level the loot will be. So it thinks prologue is basically Lumiere Act 3, so it's level 16. So if you have it randomized and you're doing prologue, you basically can start with really high gear. So this is usually disabled by default. Some other things, you want to do Gestural Beach. How many items are in there? So with these, you can basically pick up one item on the ground. And right, for this one, and you can be anything between 1 and 5. I can get one thing or I can get 5 things, right? You can get a ton of things very quickly if you put it high. But again, however you want to play, you can do that. Again, same thing with these number of pickups here. The merchant unlock, how this works is you can find a merchant and it unlocks their shop basically. So you can have like 100% locked, and until you find that merchant, all the shops are locked. So if you want to play that way, you can, or you can just have all shops open and randomized. This is one of the other things that Archipelago doesn't have currently. I think that's the next thing they're working on, is there is no shop rando in Archipelago. This one does have shop rando. So again, another kind of benefit of that if you don't really care about the logic or the character randomization stuff of it. All right, I'm going to uncheck these for a second here. Customize enemy placement. So this is our item placement. This is going to be the same thing as the enemy screen, but basically there's different categories here you can put. You can exclude certain things, right? If there's just one thing you don't want in the pool, if there's some things you don't want randomized, you can set it here. There's frequency. So if I wanted to say, Pictos are like 75, 90% chance they're Picto, but maybe like 10% chance or something else, right? I kind of like generally want Pictos in the same spot, but they could be any other Pictos. So you can do things like that. Again, you can just kind of play around with some of these, find the settings that you like, but this is just how you do more customization. Okay. Now for the enemy side of things, right? Random enemies and encounter sizes. This is saying if you have this unchecked, it's going to match the original fight. So if the fight has 2 enemies, the randomized fight will have 2 enemies. Guaranteed. Now, if you want to do anything between 1 and 3, you do something like that. This completely changes it. Now, note, this includes bosses. So, if you're fighting, like, again, Lampmaster, you might be fighting 3 bosses, right? Just so you're aware. Can randomize merchant fights, cut content. This is use at your own risk, right? It's kind of buggy, some of them. So yeah, I usually pull them off. You can as well. Enemy onslaught. This means you have more than 3. So you can have 4 enemies in a fight. You can have 5, etc. Just again, can be buggy, can sometimes not see attacks, etc. Just do it at your own risk again. I always play with this. I think bosses should always be bosses, so I like to have bosses on bosses. And this is if you want to try to limit how many bosses show up. Now this is going to, it says, calls out ignore frequency, which is what we were in the items, so noted. And then this one's important as well. If you're just doing this outside of Archie, this is going to guarantee you have more than 1 character when you fight Simon phase 2. Because obviously he expels you from the canvas. So if you only have 1 character, you can't beat Simon ever. So yeah, probably want to turn that on. Now, if you're doing Archipelago as well, and you don't know when you're getting characters, probably just want to turn Simon phase 2 off, as well as Clea, because those are 2 fights you cannot beat if you're solo. Again, use at your own risk. You can turn them on, but you might run into impossible seeds. Can't say I didn't warn you. And then same thing. If you want to reduce certain things, right, you can come in here, remove them, not randomize things. I do recommend not randomizing this. That is the story fight where said character runs into some problems. Again, I know it's not really spoilers here, but if you're watching this, I'm assuming you know what happens. You will be 1 HP and you will have to do that solo. And if you're not fighting the white-haired man, you do need to win that fight. So I recommend just putting the white-haired man so you don't have to 1v1 at 1 HP with Gustav. Again, each their own though. You can do that way. And again, same frequency sliders here. There's some pre-built categories as well you can always do. Yeah. And then you can do individual fights if you want to certainly script it. So like if I want Chromatica Best to be something specific, I can do that here. Again, more Plando stuff, but yes. And then when you do that here, you basically generate a pack mod, right? And just quickly, I want to call this out. This is how you add jump and grade encounters. You basically edit the save file. So it will ask you for where your save file is here. Right, it should take you there as close as it can. So this is save file 1. If I wanted to patch in jumping and grade encounters from the start, I basically just create a file. Once I created the file, I go in here, use this button to add it. There's also a fix for Act 3. If you defeat Final Renoir, because he's randomized before you get to the Opera House, the curtains are closed. So that's to fix the curtains. But once you have this made, you just generate and pack a mod. You just click it and it will generate one. I already have ones made here, for example. So if I were to go to this one here, these are all my randomized. It should show up as a folder like this, right? And I have a bunch of things here, right? So these are the item folder, and you'll see everything's false because I don't have items randomized because I'm doing both. And for the folders, or for the enemies, these are all their placements here. right? You can check those. But all you need to do here is take these, copy them, and you move them to a mods folder. So I have it marked, but these are in your, I'm going to go all the way to the beginning here, in case you notice. So this is like where I would load with Steam. So I go Sandfall, Content, Packs, and I need a mods folder. If you don't have this folder, you make this tilde mods, and I paste them into here. And I can actually do that here because I'm going to need these, right? Replace. And it replaces my randomizer files here. So now I get the new group of enemy randomizers, right? So you see I had a bunch of folders created here, kind of ready for that. And I just generate a bunch of them when I'm doing these runs and streams. And I just copy them over to this folder, right? Again, I have it pinned. So if you do this a lot, I recommend pinning it. Pinning it. So then you just copy, drag it into here, replace, new set of enemies. Easy. The other thing I recommend doing is, all right, I showed you this patching. I recommend I start in Spring Meadows, right? Especially if you're not randomizing anything in Prologue, to just start in Spring Meadows. That way you can basically boot up a new file, right? Start in Prologue, patch the file, play until you get Prologue, and then go into your save file location, which I also have it pinned here, right? But again, this should take you there as well. And again, just note where the folders I have it pinned for easy access, and just copy whatever file it is, right? So again, subtract 1, so, or add 1, 0 is file 1, 1 is file 2, etc. And I just make a copy of this, and I have it saved, and I just, when I want to do a new seed, I just take it, paste it in. It's going to go, because then I'm going to start in Spring Meadows, and I'm going to have my gradient counter and jump already patched in. Just a way to save time. I recommend doing it so you don't have to do this every single time. But again, do whatever you want. It's your choice. Okay. Now that that's done, right? It should boot up normally. Again, assuming it, you know, there might be some weird issues. I had some weird issues if I wasn't on the latest version, if I had both of these running, but you just combine them and it should run. Enemies should be randomized. And if you're doing Archipelago, those should be randomized. Or obviously, if you're not doing it, there should be no conflicts. But this is generally how you do other mods as well. So this mods, you see, I have a whole bunch in here. I have like minimap, etc. I have damage cap change. So like, again, I play with basically like a soft painted power on at all times because I just think it works better balance wise. And some other things like Sandfall Trainer if I, want to do testing and no clip stuff, etc. Again, those all, that's where you typically go. And if you see things like Nexus Mod asking you to put these in a mods folder, that's where they would go. So it's the same concept as you're setting up the randomizer. So that's kind of everything. I know this is kind of long-winded. It might be a little bit longer than I expected it to. But yeah, if there's any questions on how to set it up, feel free to ask. All the links will be in the description. Feel free to ask in the Discords, etc. Again, those links will also be there about how to get help and who made it. Because again, I did not make anything. Very clear, in case anyone's confused. I literally did absolutely nothing. I just played a lot, and people asked me questions on how to get it set up, etc. So yeah. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this helps, and continue making randomizer content, etc. Thanks.